but their character, how they express themselves in the application, how they present themselves in the interviews and so, they think that they are a youth that has potential.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to Paragon.U Knowledge Tip, Season 2, Episode 5. And today we are diving into the Global Exchange Program experience. And today we have Sovichea. Can you briefly introduce yourself?
Well, my name is Sovichea. You can call me Vic, though. And glad to be here. I've seen this show before. Didn't realize that it had 2 seasons and 5 episodes, but finally they invited me to be in one of these, so good to be here. I'm a soon-to-be alumni from the BUS department, and I'm working in business development right now. I'm also doing grants writing. I'm an independent editorial consultant as well, so that stuff's not too important, right? So our topic today is what? About the Global Exchange Program. What do you want to know about it?
Okay, for the first question, can you briefly describe your experience in the exchange program?
So my exchange program is from the U.S. Department of State. It's called the Global U-Grad Program or Global Undergraduate Program. There's typically 2 cohorts you can be part of. They're not called cohorts, but yeah. I was in the fall, people. So I went in August. I came back during December or so, right before Christmas. The program is for youth leaders specifically. So back in my time, we had roughly almost 100 people or so, a lot of different countries. They take us from our homes and they place us in different universities, typically in smaller towns in the United States. And you study there for a semester, like as a full-time student. That's the point of the program, a major part of it at least. But the bigger part is the cultural exchange, right? You get to live in the United States, which is very different from just visiting or so. That creates cultural interactions, foster understanding between different people, etc., etc. And I can get into more details about that later, I'm sure. I'm sure you're curious about something.
I am. I wonder how you got into the exchange program. Like, what are the requirements? What are the things you need to learn or you need to know?
So a lot of exchange programs that I see typically requires you to be part of like a workshop, some kind of competition, typically place you in teams that you've won. You get to go on the exchange, right? Global U-Grad and typically US-based exchange programs are a little bit different. Like U-Grad specifically, they would select youth leaders. Roughly, depending on the funding for each country, Cambodia last time we had about 10 people in total. So 5 for fall, 5 for spring. And some countries get more. But the process typically is that you would already be like an active youth. I guess that's their main target, youth leaders basically. So if you're someone who does volunteering a lot, you post your own events, your own projects, specifically like let's say community development kind of stuff, you will be the prime target of these kind of programs. So, I mean, they don't recruit you, of course. The embassy typically announces it like after the fall and spring people already return home and a new cohort, I guess, is opened up. So they announce it to the public. You apply for it. Other things like requirements just for you to be eligible for the program. Of course, you have to be in one of the countries that are supported by Global U-Grad. I don't remember because like there's 70 of them, but yeah. You need to be at least 18 years old of age because you're going to be living alone and all that stuff. During the time of your application, you should not be like outside the country or studying somewhere else. In terms of academic standing, I'm sure a lot of students might be curious about this. They're actually very vague about it. They just say that, you submit in your transcript, right?
Right.
So you need to be in, I quote, good academic standing. It typically means don't fail. It's not a too high of a requirement, like maybe 2.5 or something, and 3 GPA and up, okay? Roughly that. English requirement. Now that's a curious case. Some embassies don't specify that. They say, like in the time of your application, you don't need to submit a TOEFL test. But if you get selected in a later stage, you will need to take the test, which I'll touch on in a bit later. So kind of the rule of thumb, I guess, because some embassies do list this. The minimum TOEFL score is 48. Which translated to IELTS is roughly 5 or 5.5 or so. But really, it's not like a heavy requirement. Some people got in there, I'm not going to mention names, obviously. Like TOEFL, maybe 60, 78, 75 or something. You can still get selected. It's just that in some cases, people might get placed in like a special English language preparation program of some kind. So they have like an easier time to adjust, essentially. Other than that, just be a notable person. Like I said, active youth, you have to, it's not a requirement to do a lot, okay? But just show that you care. That's what they want to see, essentially. I know some folks who might not have that much experience with this stuff, but their character, how they express themselves in the application, how they present themselves in the interviews and so, they think that they are a youth that has potential, someone who cares and someone who deserves this kind of opportunity. So don't get discouraged if you think that, oh, I don't have enough experience. Try it anyways.
So which means it's really not necessary to be an active youth, but
It would help a lot. Yeah, it would help a lot. Yeah.
Okay, so that was what and how. So we will talk about your experience as a exchange student.
Mhm.
So can you describe your like typical daily day in America as a exchange student in a different country?
So here's the thing that I didn't expect when I went there was that, I thought I was going there and everything I do would be structured, right? Like, for example, you go on a study trip, typically for a week or two. They would decide everything you do. When you wake up, where you get breakfast, where you went off, what kind of fun activities you get to do. Guess what? Guess what, buddy? There's a window there. I'll throw that outside the window. I was dropped in there in this small town called Milledgeville. I love Milledgeville. In the middle of Georgia, in the middle of nowhere. And for the first couple of days, I was told nothing. Not really. So, after, getting all the stuff sorted out, like buying supplies to survive, like blankets and stuff like that, getting myself set up, finally the life of a student, like actually starts. So I'll describe you two versions of my days. Okay, one, just as a full-time student of Georgia College, where I went to in Milledgeville, and one where I had my free time. So I'm proud of myself because you get to pick your schedule just like Paragon, right? In Georgia. And I managed to have only 2 days worth of schools. It's just that in each of those days, I have roughly like 9 hours of school. So a Monday for me, when I first got there, I woke up really early. I mean, you're in a whole new damn country, land of the free, baby. So I wake up at like 6 or 7. I walk around taking the breeze and realize that I'm here. Damn. After that, I'll probably go get myself coffee later on. But at first, because you're given these small little, student ID cards, you also use that for the canteens as well. You go there, scan in there, and breakfast typically is like, you get 2 types of yogurts, strawberry, vanilla, some French toast maybe, some sausage, bacon. I love bacon. Scrambled eggs. Sometimes I would have burgers for breakfast. Might sound shocking, but you have to get used to that when you're in the US of A. Yeah. I get breakfast for a while, then I'm off to class. That's like earlier on. Later on, I just wake up really late, so I'm off to class anyways. I take film photography class because I love art, and Georgia College is quite a famous liberal arts university. So that's from 9 to maybe 12 or something. I get off of class, I head to the nearest Chick-fil-A. Yeah, Chick-fil-A. I love Chick-fil-A. I survived because Chick-fil-A too. Because in those like small student ID card, you can exchange either you go to the cafeteria and scan, or you exchange that by going to Chick-fil-A and scan. Get myself a fried chicken burger. God, I love it. I miss it now. Eat it for a bit, and then I immediately have another class, which is I study branding. Study that for an hour. Then I'm right off. I head to another building and where I study jazz. You can see the diversity in what the stuff I studied here. Jazz history, and I'll touch on that a bit as well. After which, that class is done. I head to another class, business ethics. Then my day ends typically in like 5 or 6 or so, which just so happens to be right on time where I walk out of the building, I go to the cafeteria, get my food and go back home. You see, this was a small town, and even though I'm in the United States, it would be the equivalent of like, we're in Phnom Penh, right? It would be the same if I was in like Bong Chanang. Like,
Okay.
Not the city, but like a small part of it. So there were barely any places where you can just walk in, order food and stuff like that. Not to mention it's pretty dang expensive. Yeah. So often you eat at the cafeteria. Then you head off home. That's like a typical student's day, essentially. For me, it's a full day. My free time, though, I had a lot of that stuff. And as a photographer, I was also taking film photography. I also had my camera. This was like a beautiful small American town in the middle of nowhere. And I always complained to my friends, like, why does this place look so much like a movie? So I walked around a lot. And those first few weeks, like I told you, I wake up at 6 and then I'm off. I'm just walking all around town. I walk so much. When I walk, I typically have my camera on me, a film camera, my ukulele in my backpack. And I walked around so much that people started noticing. Like that guy with the camera and ukulele. One time I was at a bench because I just finished walking. Some dude comes by me. He's like, "Yo, Vic, nice ukulele, man." I'm like, "Hey, thanks. How do you know me?" That was a little bit funny, but I really enjoyed walking there. The sun was very harsh. I had to say it was very hot, but it's not a topic of conversation. Still, I walked a lot, and I enjoyed going to the antique stores around that town. I started collecting pins, vintage American pins, wherever I go, as well. Walking around also completes my project as well because I have to be taking photos of people, essentially people and things or so. And you know what? Looking back now, I had no idea how I spent all that free time other than walking. I don't know how I pulled that off, but I managed to do that a lot. So felt healthy, kind of balances out the burger diet a little bit more. Yeah. Other than that, the traveling stuff, I guess I'll talk about later. Typically a day for me is just walking. Walking food, Chick-fil-A. Walking food, Chick-fil-A. Oh yeah, a big part of being there is that you have to do community service. It's a required thing, like 20 hours. So in Georgia College, because here, let's say in universities in Cambodia, students sometimes are encouraged to do volunteering, but most of the time, almost always, there's not a system to track how many hours you volunteer or something. In Georgia, there's like a system where you can basically look at local organizations, volunteer for you for 4 hours, and if you complete it, you get that added to your system. So you can count your hours, basically. I did a lot of that. In Georgia College, there was 2 campuses, the main and the west campus. You can take a bus to the west campus, and it's quite beautiful. I often went there for gardening. They had a small little garden in the field quite far away. So I did a lot of that. I volunteered at pet shelters also. I folded newspaper for cats for 2.5 hours, 450 sheets, I counted. Just for the community service. But when a man has so much free time, I had to figure out something. Yeah. So I really enjoy all of that, man. I can go on and on and on, but let's talk about something else.
Okay, so I've heard about eating yogurts for breakfast in Bali. So I have another question about culture shock. Like,
oh yeah,
culture shock. This is what I heard a lot from students who go to a different country. They definitely experience a lot of culture shock. So can you talk about that?
Absolutely. You see, I'm not gonna lie. I was expecting a little bit more culture shock. It did come. That shock did come, but in a way that I didn't really expect. So I was placed in the deep, deep South, and I'm an Asian student, and you have to be notable somehow, right? But really, my worries are quenched because people are really nice. They're really warm, and there's a reputation about the South America, Southern hospitality. And it's true. People are lovely there. I have to say, some things are odd to me. You know how here we greet each other like, normally. What's up? Hi, and something like that. The first few weeks I was in America, I was in Georgia. In general, folks would walk by and like, "Hey man, how you doing?" I would reply to them, right? Logically, "Hey, I'm doing fine." And it just walks straight past me. Some part of that culture. And I try to, keep that thing like a thing with me, even if I come back. A bigger culture shock is their food. God, I don't want to say too much, but damn. Burgers for breakfast, man.
That is
Jesus.
Like you used to have like rice or like.
I know. Exactly.
But having like yogurt for breakfast is kind of different.
Yeah, yogurt, French toast and all that. Sometimes I have fried chicken for breakfast on Tuesdays. I miss Southern fried chicken. They're famous for that, but still.
Would there be like a day where they would just give us some rice or like?
They would. But let's say they got to work on how to cook the rice. They put olive oil in rice. That's all I'm going to say. But sometimes even if they're rice, I avoid it because I'd rather go with the fried chicken. So that food was something that I had to get used to. But eventually I got over it. I mean, it's fine. I'm not going back to that. But still, yeah. And the people, and this kind of makes me appreciate home a little bit more. Because I didn't really miss home too much. Honestly, I'll say. I think I had the opposite. It's like, I got a little bit detached from home. But when I went to New York, it made me realize that our people are so nice. And you often hear, right? Cambodians are some of the nicest people in the world. We always smile. We always help strangers. Go to New York, it's like the complete opposite. It's a big city. And I don't blame them too much, but even if you you fall down in the middle of the street, no one's going to care. They're just going to walk around you, go about your days. People are, I don't want to say ruthless, But let's say they mind their own business there in New York. It's not like Phnom Penh even. There's barely a sense of community. There's always a sense of rushness that goes on with things. So for some people, that's the dream. Like people wanted to be moving to New York and stuff like that. For me, it was a little bit overwhelming. It's a contrast to the people I know in Milledgeville. It's a contrast to folks I know at home. So that was probably the biggest culture shock for me.
So we talked about culture shock earlier. So what can you go over about your obstacles a little bit as a exchange student, as an obstacle in your academic?
So I got lucky, I'm going to say, because Global U grants themselves say that, hey, if you're joining our, and they didn't exactly say this, but I'm paraphrasing. Hey, y'all join our program. If y'all like graduate late, consider that. Okay. I got lucky because I managed to convince, my instructors and all that. It's because I basically, for most of my time in Georgia, it was summer here. So I didn't really have classes in Paragon or so. But in the later half of it, classes did start, maybe around late November or so. So that was probably the most challenging period because in Milledgeville, Georgia, it's 12 hours behind Phnom Penh. So if it's 7 a.m. in the morning there, it would be 7 at night here, like on the next day. So as you can imagine, I had to also like work in teams for that, for some courses, some assignments and all that. And I always have to juggle those two tasks because I'm an exchange student, but I'm still a student in Georgia College. As a full-time student, I still have my responsibilities and such. So during exam weeks, that's probably the most challenging part. I had to study both during the day and during the night. I would be doing Paragon stuff because it's daytime here. So that was probably the hardest part, but it's not too hard. I'll say when you're in that kind of situation, you kind of have to pull yourself together. That's academically and mentally. It's kind of scary. I'm not gonna lie, but it's one of those situations where you just buckle down and you just tell yourself to deal with it. You're in a foreign country, a really cool one, but still a foreign country, and even though you got friends, you got close friends and all that, you still feel some sense of loneliness in that. Especially you go to big cities, you might get a little bit overwhelmed and all that, but you get used to it.
So since time is limited, so I will move to the last question. So what is that one advice you would give to a student who's considering going on a global exchange program?
Hit the enter button. Send that application. Don't wait. Don't like, oh, what if this happens? What if this happens? Just send the dang thing. You won't regret it. I'll tell you that. In terms of tips for application, I think that's a whole other topic. And if anyone's interested, you can just contact me directly for that. I can help you with that. But just do it. It's something that will change you forever. I certainly got a little bit more Americanized after the trip, but just your worldview, the way you approach things and all that, it really does change you. I like to describe it in a way that, especially when making new friends and all, before I look at countries like Mongolia, Georgia, Uzbekistan, all I see are just strange names. But when I think of them now, I think of my friends, each of them there, and they're probably going to be watching this. So Annie, Barbara, and Donna, I miss you. So do it. It's going to change your life forever and you won't regret it.
So thank you, Bo, for your time.
My pleasure.
It was a fascinating conversation. Thank you for all the experience. So that should be all for us today. Thank you all for watching.
And apply to that exchange program. Thank you.
So lastly, we would like to give a deep appreciation to Cha Shang for sponsoring this episode. Thank you.